So I had a lot of people asking me to add to YouTube the video of how I do the technique to achieve this nice, smooth, straight edge with US double crochet. So I decided to take the opportunity to also re-record the video, get rid of that crosstalk issue that we had in that last one. So hopefully everyone can fully understand the video and follow along, and we can all get nice, straight, smooth edges on our double crochet together. So here's our learning swatch. To start off, you can use chain method or foundation cord. It is completely up to you. I use foundation cord just for the uniformity of width along the piece. I tend to make my chains a little too tight, and that scrunches in the ends of my work. I don't like that happening, so I've learned that foundation cord, at least for me, keeps a better uniform width. So that's what I start with. Typically with double crochet, you would start with the amount of chains or foundation cord stitches of the amount of stitches that you want in the full work, plus an additional 2 for your turning chain. For this technique though, we're only going to use an additional 1 for a turning chain. Okay, so you can see here I'm at the end of my row. I don't have any turning chains yet, and we are going to go ahead and just chain 1 and turn the work. Now here we're going to lengthen that stitch a little bit. All right, it's going to be significantly bigger than the hook technically should be making, but we're going to go ahead and out of the shadow there we go, lengthen that stitch. All right, and then place your finger here to hold it in place so that you don't lose the size of that when you're making your double crochet. So now you've got your lengthened stitch. We're going to yarn over, holding that stitch into place, and we're going to stitch into the very first stitch here. Traditionally, you'd skip that first stitch and go into the second, but we are not going to do that. We're going to go into the very first stitch here and complete your double crochet. Nice and simple, easy enough. You've now made your corner, nice turning chain. You've got a nice loose stitch here that creates that nice turn and gives you the smooth edge that we're looking for. So now we're just going to continue like normal, double crochet all the way across your work to the other end. Try and maintain a nice even tension throughout. That'll definitely help with giving you nice smooth edges. Oopsies. There we go. And this next part is the part that I had an issue putting into words, the entire reason I made a video in the first place. So I'm really hoping that everyone can follow along and be able to understand. But if you have any issues, just let me know, and I can do what I can to help you understand. But the general feedback so far is that it was pretty understandable and easy to do. So I'm really hoping that no one has any problems here. So we are at the end of the row here. Now, traditionally, you'd be finishing the last double crochet into this stitch right here. This turning chain that we had lengthened at the end, that's the last stitch on the row. That's typically where you would put your double crochet. I'm sorry, my hand was in the way. So I found when doing that stitch there, though, that it created kind of a hole, and over time creates a bump in the sides of the work. So instead of doing it in that top stitch there, where we traditionally would, right underneath that stitch here, right here is another bump. See that? Here's the stitch that we typically would go through. Right underneath it, right there, that's the bump we're actually going to go into. We're going to go through that loop first, and then the front loop of that top stitch that we would typically go through. Those are going to be our 2 loops that we go through for this double crochet. Okay, and that's what's going to give us our nice smooth edge there. So go ahead and yarn over, go to this bottom loop here that's underneath that stitch, go through that one, and then you're going to want to go through the front loop only of this top stitch here. Go through that. All right, that's our 2 loops on. And now double crochet as normal. Oh, and make sure when you pull that through that you keep your hook right next to your work. Okay, you do not want to pull like that. You don't want to lengthen that stitch at all. In order to keep a nice smooth edge, you want to keep that really, really nice tension, relaxed tension, but even throughout the whole thing. And then just nice and gently and smoothly, relaxed, pull through on that double crochet, and you are left with a perfectly smooth, straight edge every time. You can do that one more time. Just chain 1, turn your work, lengthen your stitch. Oh, that's a little too much. Lengthen your stitch, pin it in place, yarn over, go into that very, very first stitch, and that's your turn. So I hope that helped everybody to be able to create these beautiful straight edges with double crochet. You might notice that these are a little bit more wavy than the ivory example here. And that is only because of the size of my hook. This is the same size of yarn, same brand. But this was created, the white was created with a 4.5 millimeter hook, whereas the green was created with a 5.5 millimeter hook. So when you have a bigger gauge, you're going to have, you know, a bit more of that waviness on the edge. But as you can see, it's still incredibly, incredibly straight. So I hope that helps everybody, and happy crocheting.